Hello there, welcome to the channel, welcome back perhaps. We are in the second half of a little experiment here involving the ever joyful Superego Plus, one of our first pedals. And what we're looking at is applying the effects of the pedal to the fuzz. This is our Fender Shields Blender, and what we did in the first part of this video was looked at applying them as effects in an effects chain before the fuzz. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at them as applied to the Superego's freeze function. Worth noticing that these effects are applied before the fuzz. They're applied to the freeze before it hits the fuzz, in the same way that it's applied to the dry signal before the fuzz when we're using it as an effects loop. So we are in latch mode, which means every time we push a button here, we capture a note. We have an effect going in the background. Sorry, when I say effect, a loop going in the background, which we will be snatching different pitches from. Currently, it is not doing anything. It is the same loop, the same sample that we were using before. But we're not going to play it now because we're just going to dive in and see how things go. So the sample is live, latch is also live. This is the kind of sound we're going to be getting. The fuzz is off, the effects are off. Unlike when it's an effects loop mode for the Superego, we have to turn the effects off and on here. So let's see if we're getting a note from the sample. There we go. There we go. Sometimes it latches onto nothing. Okay, that one will do to start. And this is how it sounds with the fuzz without any effects. Very pleasant. Bringing the effects volume down there just so that you can hear me. We are only having one layer at a time. There's not going to be any harmony in the notes that we're capturing in this latch mode. Let's see how it sounds with the effects. First one we're going to hit is the filter, which we have actually used before in previous experimentations with the Superego freeze going into the fuzz. So here we go. Without the fuzz, but even at a very low level, makes quite a difference. Now, the fun new thing that we can do is, by adding some resonance to the filter, so you see we can get very noisy there. Okay, so pitch, I do not think that there's particularly a lot of applicability for here, though let's see. Almost like an octave fuzz, but then when we add the octave in here, 2, yeah, not without its uses. About 5th maybe. Yeah, you know, not so useful maybe. Tremolo 1 and Tremolo 2. Tremolo 2, which we will look at first, being a square wave, and Tremolo 1 being a sine wave, we were not finding particularly useful when we were using it as part of the effects loop before the Shields Blender, because there was so much ambient noise. Maybe that could be something that is changeable with a noise gate, but in this situation we're not really worried about that so much. So let's set something roughly what we would like for a square wave tremolo. Listen to our fuzz, octave not on, and here's our effect. Maybe interesting with some delay after the fuzz. Maybe like the dweller. That might be really interesting. Let's add the octave in. Yeah. As more of like a background effect. Let's try the sine wave. How does it sound without the fuzz? Okay, something like that, where it's like a heavy pulse. Ooh, let's see how that sounds. really slow and heavy like that is quite frankly delicious. And those tremolos are way more useful when the pedal is in this freeze mode rather than in the effects loop mode. Also worth saying, Fender Shields Blender also a way more useful tool when this is in a multi-effects, when this is in a freeze mode than a multi-effects mode. I don't mind it as a fuzz to be used with an instrument, with the contrabass clarinet, but with this freeze, you know, as a part of the freeze effects loop, completely different beast. So useful. Yeah, very nice. What did I very quickly want to do with that? Want to listen to the tremolos one more time, maybe? Let's have a quick listen. How was it with the octave? A little more obvious. Okay, let's take the fuzz off there, and let's play with the rotary now. Oh, I know what we wanted to do with those guys. Sorry, but we're going to try some different notes. Lovely. Beautiful. Okay, 2 rotary. Let's turn that off. Let's see. This is our rate here. See how it sounds with the fuzz. Feel that's going to be very interesting. I mean, that's just such a range of effects. That's lovely. And then if we turn the rate down, yeah. Okay, that's rotary. Mod, let's turn the fuzz off there. Now let's try with no depth, no rate. Okay. Okay, it's here where we seem to get a really strong effect. Past new. Let's keep it right there for now. That's some lovely rhythmic stuff going in there, like some of those higher warbly notes. Very nice. Okay, some really lovely subtlety there. Phaser and flanger, I think, are, yeah, let's see. Obviously, from our previous video, we did hear a difference between these two. Let's see which ends up being more effective over the whole function. Yeah. Now, what's quite interesting here is that the phaser actually seems to be less subtle than the flanger, which is not usually the case. I also think that the flanger maybe has a wider rate range, possibly depth range too. That would require more experimentation, but like there's a lot of good there. There's a lot of good there. Yeah, both of those beautiful additions. Okay, let's see how delay and echo sound. Okay, once again, I'm seeing how delay and echo are actually better designed for the use within a freeze context than they are in a multi-effects aspect. Let's experiment with them with the fuzz. We can hear that the difference in the tone is more obvious without the fuzz here. Like the echo seems to have more high end. So let's see how those sound with the fuzz. Okay, it's pretty clear how the delay adds a pulse into things there. Not so clear how effective the echo is, but yeah, all well and good as far as I'm concerned. Especially the delay, I think that could be very, very useful. I mean, there are so many different textures here. It's such a pleasure, and I'm so glad that we're exploring this with the freeze as well as with the you know, as an effects loop with the fuzz in it. Okay, the final one, detune. Our fuzz is off there. Let's see how this sounds. That's the mix. That's the pitch. see how this sounds. Very exciting.